Hi, welcome to the Wisdom of Your Soul. I'm Janice, your host, and I'm so glad you're back. It's been a really fun holiday season, and now we are approaching a new year. So I hope everybody's getting ready for 2020. And along with it, perhaps we want to look at new ways that we can always work on quieting down our ego mind, which tends to give us a lot of trouble. So, this can be a little time out for you, and it's always a little time out for me, and a reminder for me to, lower the sound of the ego so that I can be present to the soul energy that lives within. And, sometimes that's more challenging than others. Sometimes our worries can create such havoc in our minds that it really can take over. And before we know it, we could have spent an hour in worrying and thinking and, trying to control something that we can't control. And, it's not that is bad. It's not a bad thing to do. It just takes away from our life force. And it takes away from, how we feel. When we're sitting there worrying and picturing the worst things that could happen in life, that affects our body. If you just think about something that scares you, you could bring yourself to that point of being really scared as if you are actually in that situation. So what happens to our bodies when we imagine things is the same thing that happens to our bodies when we're actually in the real life event. So it's really in our best interest to always create that inner peace for ourselves. And that can be very challenging sometimes. We definitely have that soul energy that lives within us and the love energy that lives within us that can help us. A lot of times we do forget, or we get so caught up in the ego that we don't realize that there's somebody else that we can consult with. That's my cat Toast, who's coming by to say hi. We always have some friendly visitors here. So, we really want to always encourage ourselves to lower down the volume of the ego. And this morning I was thinking about the ego and how loud it can be. And for many, myself and my clients, it can be very loud with worry or fear, traveling into the future that we're not ready for, or looking back into the past and, maybe criticizing ourselves or, not feeling good about things that we've done in the past, all of which is over. And for us to sit in those memories or those fears, just really does create stress within our bodies, which can really affect our health. So it's really, in our best interest to have inner peace, not to have a war within ourselves. We can look very calm on the outside, and I have a lot of clients that come in and they look calm as a cucumber. And then when I start talking to them, I'm like, wow, I would never in a million years thought all that was going on inside of them. And we all do it. And nobody is not doing it. I mean, unless you're really, really working on it, most people have some sort of internal war going on that they have to deal with. And some of us have gotten really good coping mechanisms and deal with that inner war in a very easy way so that it doesn't really take away from their life. And some people get really trapped in their head and really get trapped into what the ego says, and is very hard to disengage from it because we do believe the ego as if it's truth. I have been listening a lot to Byron Katie and her work, and I would highly recommend that. And she has people on, and she actually does this questioning of the ego mind that really helps us to see how our perceptions are so off. That when we question our belief system, we're really quite off on what we believe in general. And once we see that opens up the door, for us to ask another question. It opens up the door for us to let the soul come in. she calls this other part of us, this inner guide, what I call the soul, she calls it the heart mind. And that's another beautiful word for it because it is the same. So we have the ego mind, we have the ego, and then we have the soul. So she calls the soul the heart mind. So whatever resonates for you, there is another place within us that we have to go to. There's another voice, so to speak. And we're not crazy having all these voices. It's just who we are. So if we have the ego voice talking so loud all the time, it's very hard to hear this heart mind. It's very hard to connect to this inner wisdom that lives within us. And you know when you're connecting to it because usually it makes you feel calmer. And you know when the ego's got you because usually it's some kind of fear, some kind of worry, some thoughts that are just collecting other thoughts that are just making you feel bad about yourself or scaring you. So we don't want to keep scaring ourselves with, hopping too far into the future. And we don't want to blame ourselves for the past. Katie does talk a lot about love what is. So if we just loved what's happening in our life and love exactly what's happening right now, maybe we wouldn't throw ourselves so much into fear. But it's hard to do that on our own. When we tap into this energy, when we tap into this inner guide, into this inner wisdom, it helps us to do that. Because when I'm in that soul energy, I can feel that my soul loves exactly what it is. My soul's not complaining. My soul's not telling me what to do. This energy is very unconditional. It's very loving and it's very accepting. And it is definitely the definition of loving what is. So, it is always in our benefit to ask this other part of us, this inner wisdom for its take on our life. But in order to do that, we have to quiet down the ego. So listening to, Eckhart Tolle or Byron Katie or doing Course in Miracles or doing affirmations or doing yoga or, doing whatever it is that you love to do in your life, your passion helps you to quiet down the ego. And so whatever technique you have in doing that, listening to music, anything that you can do to quiet it down gives you the opportunity to open up that window, open up a crack, just so that you could let your soul energy be again. And, a lot of times people will say, when I'm not thinking, I feel better. I just feel better. And I really don't have any worries. And I'm really pretty happy in my life. And there's a contentness in there and there's a safety in there. But we live so much in our mind that sometimes we don't ever get there. We don't ever get to that place. So if you can kind of think about it, like our ego is sort of like, having the radio on blasting, and having this music on in the background. And sometimes, when we have music loud like that, it's just so distracting. And that's all we're focusing on is this really loud music. Someone please turn down that music. And it makes it difficult to be in a conversation with somebody else if you have the music blasting. If you ever go to a wedding and they have the music blasting and you're trying to talk to people that are around you, it's like impossible to talk to them. And that's kind of what the ego does. So the ego is very distracting that way. So if you're sitting with people and your ego mind is going and going and going, you can't really be present. I notice that the quieter my ego is, the more present I am, and I'm just not even thinking that I'm not thinking. I used to think, oh wow, I really haven't thought in hours, but you just kind of come out of that thinking because you just don't take it so seriously. And that's what Byron Katie talks a lot about, is to really question your beliefs. So when you have a belief about something, or if you have a fear about something, she would say, well, how do you know that that's true? So say if you're worrying about money, oh my goodness, I have all these bills coming up and how am I going to pay for this? And she would say, well, question that. How do you know that that's true? How do you know that you can't pay for it? How do you know that you can pay for it? How do you know anything will happen bad if you can't pay for it? So it really helps us to challenge the beliefs that are getting us really, really so stuck that we just can't relax and we can't enjoy our lives. So it really does work. So I would highly, highly recommend, if you're having an issue with quieting down your own ego, it's just another tool. It's just another option. Other than meditating and listening to other people, it's another way that you can challenge your belief system. You can challenge the ego's belief system a little bit so that you make room for this other voice. So you could ask your soul questions. So you could ask your soul, or the energy that lives within you, for its wisdom. And you will, things will come to you. Things will flash right before your eyes. If you ask your soul, can you help me with this? I'm really can't get out of my head. If you just sit and meditate for a little bit, you'll be shown, an idea. You'll feel an impression. It's a beautiful voice that lives within us, but it's a much quieter voice. So we do have to learn to, lower the music down and lower the voice of the ego down to hear it. And we won't be able to hear it if we don't lower it. So whatever technique you use to lower that ego voice is fine. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving you ideas. And I tend to bounce from technique to technique, because sometimes for me, some things work, sometimes things don't work. And, I really do feel a very strong connection to my soul. And when I'm in it, it's an amazing, amazing feeling when I'm connected. But there are times when I'm disconnected. And during those times, it feels like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get connected again. And it's not true. It's just that's what the ego will tell me. Oh, that's it. You have no connection anymore. You lost your connection to your soul. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. You just have to find your way back. And it doesn't have to be difficult, but, our ego can be so convincing and so takes over so much that it can be a little bit difficult to get out of it. So that's our challenge always, for sure. One of the other ways that we've been working on getting back into our soul energy is through doing the book, The Magic. So I hope that you guys have been trying to do that book. I love Lorna Burns' book. It's one of my favorite books because the ego does always have us focus so much on negativity and things that hurt us, that books like The Magic help us to focus on things that we can bring to our attention that make us feel good and really can lower that ego voice down a little bit. So the first 3 exercises, they're cumulative. So the first exercise was to count 10 blessings that you have. And they can be small blessings, big blessings. I'm grateful and I'm blessed to be breathing. I'm grateful and I'm blessed to have, my animals. Just list 10 blessings a day. So we want to continue doing that, listing your 10 blessings a day. And they're easy to find. You think, 10, that's a lot. But they're pretty easy to find once you get going. And if you can't find them, that's your opportunity to sit quietly, to take some deep breaths and ask your soul, what am I blessed for? I'm not finding it at the moment. My ego has really got the best of me and all I can think about is negative things. And just sit and watch your soul energy, give you things, ideas in your mind will just come to you. It's really cool. So if you're at a loss for finding things, do that. The next exercise was the rock exercise. And that was every night before you go to bed, you take your rock and you think about something that happened that you're really grateful for. And you just say, thank you. I had a really great day yesterday. I relaxed and I took it easy and I slept a lot because I had a cold. So I'm really grateful and thankful to have that time to do that. And so that was mine. The third exercise was about relationships. So we want to pick 3 people in our lives and just write 3 to 5 things about them that you're very grateful for and that you would hold those pictures with you. So today, the exercise is about our health, as we're talking about, since I've had a cold and everybody's got the flu. Our health is really, if we don't have our health, we're not here. So it's important. And the soul is very, very gentle with our bodies and is always telling me we're way too strict on ourselves. So to be grateful to the body. just to be grateful to the body. And that's really hard for the ego, because the ego is always criticizing the body. It's always saying, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're eating junk, you're not healthy. The ego is relentless when it comes to our bodies. And I'll have to tell you, our soul energy is the complete opposite. The soul energy is like, your body's beautiful the way it is right now. Eat what makes you feel good. And if you find that you eat something that doesn't make you feel good, it's okay. My soul energy is always telling me it's not the food that we put in our body. It's the thoughts that we're thinking and believing that really affects us so much more. So I know that's really a tough one to digest, so to speak, because we've been trained, with all of this information of what's right to eat and what's wrong to eat. And it's so confusing. And then there's the ego saying it's all fine. It's all good. The more you create inner peace within you, the less you're going to have any issue with your body or what you eat, because you'll just be more peaceful. And a lot of times we will make bad choices when we're not in a good place and when the ego is scaring us. And, we get worried or we get scared or we get overwhelmed. And, that could be a time where we act out and eat. So the soul is really not concerned so much with the body, because it knows that you're eternal, and it knows that the body has a limited time on earth, and that once you're without your body doesn't mean that you're not going to exist. So the soul energy knows the truth. It's like the soul is like that wise parent and knows what's going to happen to us, and is always trying to soothe us, and always trying to tell us, listen, everything was going to be okay. And even if if your body stopped working and had its time here on earth, that you're going to be okay, that you don't die, that nothing bad happens to you. And that is so super comforting. But do we hear those words often? No, we don't hear them, because the ego, like that very, very loud music, is cranked up to the point that we just don't hear the soul's voice. And, we want to really hear it. So the exercise with the magic is to just be grateful for your body, whatever state it's in. If you're here and if you're listening to this, your body's in fine state. And whether you can walk, whether you can't walk, whether you can see, whether you can't see, whether you're, in treatment for something, it doesn't matter. The soul says your body's completely healthy. And there's nothing wrong with it if you're here. If you're breathing, there's nothing wrong with your body. So, we tend to focus on every ache and pain, and we tend to focus on, what's happening to our bodies. Our bodies are getting bigger, or they're, whatever we're focusing on, we focus on in such a negative way. So this is our opportunity to focus on our body in a really, really positive way. And that is super hard for us to do. So the way that we do that is to ask the soul, can you please show me, what's good about my body? And your soul will bring ideas to you and images to you, and will bring you the truth, which is, we're so grateful for your body, because your body is giving you this experience of life. Your body is there so that you can connect to other souls, and your body is alive, and you can experience all the wonderful things that life has to offer. And we're grateful to your body, and it doesn't matter what state or condition it is, it still serves the same purpose. It's like a car, it doesn't matter if you have a Maserati or if you have a Jeep. It doesn't matter. They both drive. And that's what the soul will say with our bodies. It just doesn't matter. We get so caught up in what we look like, and, it's something that really does take us out of the moment, and causes us a lot of pain and a lot of worry. A lot of my clients, a lot of what they talk about is how bad they feel about their bodies, and whether they're too fat or they're too skinny, or now their bodies are failing them, or they're not walking great, or they have back issues, or, they spend a lot of time focused on their bodies. And it's understandable, and the soul completely understands it, and does not judge us at all. It just would like to correct us, like that parent correcting a child. The soul wants to correct us and say, listen, again, your body serves one purpose. You're here and to give you this life experience. And we want you to experience it fully and joyfully and with love. And that's how the soul, when we're connected to the soul, that's what we feel. So we can handle, the aches and pains. We can handle our body's aging. We can handle all of that, when we have the soul's words of wisdom, when we feel that from the soul. So it's really always in our best interest to connect to our inner guide, our inner source, the soul. Abraham Hicks calls what I call the soul energy, your inner being, which I think is really good too, the inner being. And they say, consult with your inner being. Your inner being knows best. And that's pretty much what I'm saying too. And when I connect to it, that's all that I feel. So, my soul's always helping me to quiet down the ego. And that's really kind of our job, so that we can have an inner peace. And then when we have inner peace within each of us, then we can extend that to other people. There's a war in each of us. And if we're not, responsible for that, and if we're not trying to work on that, to create inner peace, we're going to create inner wars within our families, because that's what we extend. When we're not feeling good, we're really not good with anybody else. So we create little mini wars. So we are all concerned about the state of our economy, and we're all worried about our world and world peace, and we really do have to start with ourselves. The inner war within each of us. The more we can soothe that, the better off we are. So, the soul will always say to me, these thoughts are not in your best interest. You can have them. The soul will never ever take your thoughts away. You can have them, but don't latch on to them, and don't take them as fact. There is much, much more to you than what the ego is saying. So if the ego is just always spilling out and is always talking, and is constantly saying negative things and bringing beliefs to you that are hurting you, the soul would just like you to say, I don't have to believe this. I don't have to believe this. Even if the world agrees with it, or you get 10 people to agree with you, you can say, I don't have to believe this. And that's the power that you have, to not believe the thoughts. And Byron Katie will say, well, how would you feel if you didn't have these thoughts? What would your life be like if you didn't have the thoughts that you're thinking right now, the thoughts that are creating any kind of pain within you? What if they just disappeared? What would you be doing? How would you be? And usually there's like a relaxing feeling in that. It's like, oh, I would just be me. If I wasn't thinking all these crazy things all the time, I would just be me. And that's what the soul energy does for us. It helps us to question these beliefs. And you want to get to that point of saying, I'm better off without these thoughts, and I'm better off not believing these thoughts. And, if we could kind of say, all right, if every day that I woke up, there was no past and there's no future, and that really forced us to live in the present, we'd all be much, much better off. So you can kind of envision that, you kind of say, well, what if I just didn't remember yesterday? And I have no ability to think about the future. How would that change today? And there is a relaxation in that, because then what are you left to do? If you really have nothing to worry about, what are you left to do? You're left to be fully in you in a relaxed way. So you just start to relax and feel better. And then you become very present. You become very present with other people, because your ego is very quiet. And when you sit with another person and you have a quiet ego, that's an amazing feeling, because you're so present, and you just feel the connection with the other person. That's much different than connecting with another person with two egos. It makes it a little tougher to connect to each other. So the soul energy is always kind of reminding us of how we are in the spirit world, which is where we're really all connected and we're all one. So when we bring a little bit of that here, it's so nice. It's so nice not to have to worry about anything, to know that we're all taken care of, that we're all provided for, and, we really don't have anything to worry about. And that's a tough pill to swallow for most of us, and we need that reassurance. We need that help. We need that guidance. And that's what our soul is right there for us to do. And, like Katie's saying, it's the heart mind, and Abraham Hicks calls it the inner being, and I call it the soul, and Eckhart Tolle calls it our consciousness. But if you listen to their stories, if you listen to how they awoke, it's all spiritual reconnecting, so to speak. They had an experience that brought them back into spirit. And once they got back there, they felt this connection that they continue to have. And that's what happened with my experience too. When I had this connection of opening up to the spirit world, I knew the truth. I knew what life was meant to be, and I knew that we're much bigger than we know, and there's so much more to us, and that there is, our energy is nothing but love. And when we connect to that, we can extend that, and when we're not connecting that for ourselves or other people, we're not extending that. So once you have that experience, that awakening, once you have that, you never go back. Your ego can start up a little bit, but you always know that you can go back to the comfort of your inner wisdom and your inner being. And, you don't ever lose that. So the more you do this, the more you quiet down your ego, the more apt you're going to stay in your soul energy more and more and more, to the point where you're not going to really have too many problems or too many things to think about. And then life just kind of flows, and people look at you and say, well, aren't you worried about that? And I'm kind of like, no, not really. You become worry free. Your life changes for the better. So I would highly recommend you continue to listen to all the people that resonate with you, because it really, really does work. And to continue doing the magic. So the exercise for today is to just focus on your body and say thank you, and if you're having a hard time doing that, sit quietly and ask your soul, can you please show me the purpose of this body? Can you please show me what it's really for? I think that maybe I've been, conditioned to think that this body has to be perfect. It has to be perfect in weight, in size, and in health. And I have a cold today. So that doesn't, some people would be like, well, if you were really spiritual, you would never get sick. That's so not true. The body is not, the body isn't meant to live forever and ever. And the body, get sick sometimes. So that's okay, and, but the more that we love our bodies and keep thanking it and saying, thank you, body, for allowing me to be here and to be with the people that I love and to connect with the people that I love and to teach and to do my work and to be able to be with my kids and my friends and all my loved ones. I thank the body, and that's all that it's here for. So when we redefine things, that can help. That can help set our ego down a little bit too, because then there's no need to perfect the body. The body is already perfect. Whatever state your body is in, if you're here and breathing, your body is perfect and your soul is grateful. And when you feel that gratitude, when you go into your soul energy and you feel that gratitude for your body, you know it. You just know it. And there'll come a time when you're going to thank the body and you're going to let it rest forever. And you're going to move on into the spirit world and continue on your journey. And, that will be a beautiful thing for all of us to see. And the more we connect to this energy, the more we know that that's true. And we're reassured that everything is fine. It's hard to be here and thinking that if I die, I die and that's it. That's not, those are kind of really frightening thoughts, that's going to scare anybody. So we don't really know what happens, we don't know. I do know though, when I go into the soul energy, I'm very comforted and I feel love and I feel like that's the energy that I go into. And that feels very reassuring to me. Do I know 100%? No, I don't. But I feel like if I'm being reassured for that, in that's just a knowing, and it's just hard to describe. So that you'll have to see that for yourself. But so if we really don't know what's going to happen, and why think the worst? That's only going to scare us. So it's better to think the best and to ask your soul energy, can you please comfort me around this? And your soul will be happy to do that. You just have to turn down the music a little bit so that your soul can get to you and talk to you. And you can ask it questions all the time. It's like having a different person inside of you. And it's a much, much more loving person. And that's how you know you're not crazy, because you'll have this very, very loving guide inside of you, like a little angel sitting next to you and talking nice things to you. And that is just not something we're accustomed to. So it won't make you feel crazy. It'll just make you feel better. So I hope you continue to try to connect to your inner guide, your soul, and continue to do the book, The Magic. So just for today, continue to do the exercises 1 through 3. And then for today, do the gratitude for your body. So have a wonderful new year. This is a new year for us all. So let's, make a resolution to just keep turning down the ego and keep connecting. Because when you connect, you will see how abundant your life becomes. So have a great new year, and we'll talk next week. Take care. Bye.